Shalom. Welcome to the Philadelphia Assemblies. Today is the second day of the fifth month of the year 5779, according to the sacred calendar of Yahuwah, as best we can discern. Again, we look at the new moon as the full moon per Psalms 81, verse 3. So anytime you just pop in on one of these, I'm adding that just so you understand how we keep time. We're going to be continuing our expository teaching of the Torah, which the book of Deuteronomy is the last book of the Torah. So we're going to be beginning in chapter 10, and we're going to be continuing as Moshe or Moses continues to lay out the Torah to the the men of Israel, the chosen ones. That would have been both physically and those that were grafted in and born in the land. Because once you're grafted in and then your kids are born in the land, you're Israel. Remember that. So don't be confused by all the rhetoric that's out there on that. But there is a physical seed and there is a spiritual seed. And right now, even if you're a physical seed, you still need to be a spiritual seed or you're still cut off. Okay, but the grafted in or wild olive branch, which would be anyone that's from the nations and not born of the bloodline that comes all the way back to from Jacob, then Isaac, and then Abram or Abraham. It either is or it isn't. Okay, and we have to understand who that is. And that's not what I'm here to teach today, but you do have to keep that in mind. I'm going to continue this study, but first we're going to turn towards where the temple was and where the temple will be, okay? Towards Jerusalem, and we're going to open in prayer. Almighty Father Yahuwah, we praise you and thank you in all things. Father, we want to keep, I haven't heard any updates on Brother Robert Slayton and Nancy's mother, Robert's mother-in-law. We haven't heard how she is, but we're going to continue to lift her up to you in prayer, that you might totally and completely heal her and protect her. Keep your hedge all about her and around that family. We ask you that you would open all our eyes, touch all our hearts, teach us what it is you have for us to know. Have that Ruach HaKodesh, that Holy Spirit, to come and give us an extra unction today, Father. Help us to be your words and not ours. Okay, Father, we ask that you would correct us where we need correcting. Help us to be a light or be edifying where we have the truth. We ask it all in Yahushua or Jesus or Yeshua's name. Amen. Okay. Chapter 10, verse 1. Starts out by saying, at that time, as he was reading this book of the law and reciting it in the ears of the sons of Israel, it was at that time Yahuwah said unto me, cut out or carve you 2 tables of stone like unto the first. So he'd already had the first 2 given to him, and he came down, and the children of Israel had corrupted and had made graven or molten images unto the calf, made calves, or tried to make likenesses of the Most High and of the Ruach. They tried to make a likeness which they had never seen a similitude, the King James says, or a likeness of. So they really didn't have a good view. They could only, they knew that the Ruach at times, or the Holy Spirit at times showed up as smoke and a cloud, a fire, smoke in the daytime and then fire at night, and they knew that he fought for them, but they didn't see a real likeness or know what either one of them appeared, so they tried to make themselves images when they made these golden calves. And again, I know the King James shows that in singular. We've seen that a couple of times back in the Exodus here in Deuteronomy. And we need to make sure we check those things out. Don't take my word for it. Go in and look and see if that word for calf should have not been translated calves, plural, and that's what they were doing. They were trying to make likenesses of the Most High and His Ruach, His power, His Spirit. Okay? So now that when he came back and saw Israel, already, and Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah had already warned him that they had corrupted. So when he went back, he was so angry, he threw the first 2 tablets and cast them out and broke them. And now he was being given commandment, or he's recording about when he was given commandment to carve out 2 tables of stone that were likened to the first, and come up unto me unto the mount, and make you an ark of wood. Okay, this is the Ark of the Covenant we're talking about here, that's going to house those 10 commandments and the Torah. They were all kept in there, as well as Aaron's rod that budded and the manna that were left in this Ark of the Covenant. And he says in verse 2, and I will write, and again, this is the Father, His Word being carried by the Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit, and I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. There's His commandment. Okay? Notice it didn't say Moses did it. It said He would do it. It said, and I will write on the tables or tablets the words that were in the first table or tablets, which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. And then it says in verse 3, and this is Moshe speaking, or Moses, made an ark of shittim wood, as he was commanded, and carved 2 tables of stone, as were like the first. So he made them, the tablets, like the first, and went up into the mount, having the 2 tables in my hand. And he, being talking about the Most High, and I'm sure he used that Ruach, his arm, he wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which Yahuwah spake, or Yahweh or Jehovah, unto you in the mount, out of the midst of the fire. Okay, and that fire said was the angel of Yahuwah or Yahweh that was on that. If you go back and read that in the Exodus account, in the day of the assembly, and Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah gave them unto me. And I turned myself and came down from the mount, and put the tables, or tablets, in the ark which I had made, and there be as Yahuwah or Yahweh had commanded me. And the sons or the ben of Israel took their journey from Beeroth of the ben of Yaakam to Mosrei. There Aaron died, and there he was buried. And Eleazar, his son, or his ben, ministered in the priest's office in his stead or place. From there they journeyed into Judgodah, and from Judgodah to Yotbath, a land of rivers of water. 8. And at that time, Yahuwah or Yahweh separated the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah. They became the ben of Elohim, or at that time. They got traded for the firstborns, all of them, even the animals, to stand before Yahweh or Yahuwah, to minister unto him, and to bless in his name unto this day. Therefore Levi hath no part nor inheritance with his brethren. He wasn't going to get any land for his inheritance. Yahuwah is his inheritance, according as Yahuwah Elohim promised him. And I stayed in the mount according to the first time, or the same as the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. And Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah listened unto me at that time also, and Yahuwah or Yahweh would not destroy you. That's why he was there. He was fasting and he was praying, asking Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah to forgive the sons of Israel, to let them continue and possess the land. And verse 11 says, And Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah said unto me, Arise up, take your journey before the people, that they may go in and possess the land which I swear, or I promised unto their fathers to give them unto them. Verse 12, And now Israel, what does Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, Elohim, require of you? But to fear Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, all his commandments, keep his covenant. Okay, couldn't focus there for a minute. In all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, with what? With all your heart, with all your soul. This is the first great commandment. To keep the commandments of Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, and his statutes, which I command you this day for what? Your good or your benefit. So the law is not a burden. It's to our good and to our benefit, the Torah. Basically every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yah, or Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah. Behold, the haven, or the heaven, and the heaven of heavens is Yahuwah's, is of Yahuwah your Elohim. That's how it should have been translated. And it's talking about the Shamayim. It's talking about the third heaven in this case. But it says, Behold, the Shamayim, and the Shamayim of Shamayims is of Yahuwah. That's the third heaven, your Elohim. The earth also, with all that therein is. Only Yahuwah, or Yahweh, had a delight in your fathers to love them, and he chose their descendants after them, even you above all people, as it is this day. Okay? And that's talking about Israel. The physical seed first, and then later now the spiritual seed. But it was always about those that loved Yahuwah and kept his commandments. Don't be confused. Here's verse 6, more explanation on what we're talking about, circumcision of the heart. He says, Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked or stubborn. For Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, is Elohim of Elohims. It says, is God of gods. Elohim of Elohims. Okay, that's what it says. Okay? A mighty and terrible, or a mighty and awesome, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. And I take that back a while ago. I want to actually correct myself. It says, Yahuwah your Elohim is El, okay, of Elohim, of lords. A great Elohim, a mighty and terrible, which regardeth not persons, nor taketh reward. So he is El, a mighty one, okay? Yahuwah is your Elohim, is El, is mighty one of mighty ones. And he is the mighty one of mighty ones. Okay? And Master, or Adonai, okay? A great El, a mighty and terrible, with regard not to persons, nor taketh reward. A lot going on there, so I had to make sure I did that correctly. Verse 18, He doth execute the judgment of the fatherless, the Most High, and widow, and loveth the stranger, and giveth him food and clothing. 19, Love you therefore the stranger. That's talking about those that not only were not born in the land, but probably weren't even keeping the commandments, because the example is, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You shall fear Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah your Elohim, Him shall you serve, and to him shall you cleave or cling, and swear or promise by his name to keep his covenant. 21. He is your praise, and he is your Elohim. He hath done for you these great and awesome things which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down into Egypt with 70 persons, and now Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah your Elohim hath made you as the stars of the Shamayim or heaven for the multitude. Chapter 11. Therefore you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim, the great commandment, and keep his commandments, his charge, his command, and his statutes, okay, or requirements, his judgments or decrees, and his commandments always. Every bit of thing, every word that proceedeth out of his mouth. And know you this day, for I speak not with your ben, which have not known, and which have not seen the chastisement of Yahuwah your Elohim, his greatness, his mighty hand, the Ruach HaKodesh, and his stretched out arm. Same thing. 3, and his miracles and his acts which he did in the midst of Egypt unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and into all his land. And that's capitalized. So even though he's talking about Pharaoh, we know all the land belongs to Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah. That's why it's capitalized. 4, and what he did unto the army of Egypt, unto their horses and to their chariots, how he, Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah, did it through the Ruach, made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them as they pursued after you, and how Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, hath destroyed them unto this day. And what he did unto you in the wilderness until you came unto this place, and what he did unto Dathan and Abram, the ben of Eliab, the son of Reuben, how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households and their tents and all the substance that was in their possession in the midst of all Israel. Notice in your King James it says opened her mouth. Might give you some kind of hint how that Mother Nature thing came over the years. You know, it was an evolving of understanding. Not a good evolving, but an evolving. Verse 7, but your eyes have seen all the great acts of Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah, which he did. Therefore shall you keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that you may be strong and go in and possess the land where you go to possess it. And that you may prolong your days in the land which Yahuwah, or Yahweh or Jehovah, that tetragrammaton, those 4 letters, the Most High, the Father, swear or promised unto your fathers to give unto them, to their seed, a land that flows with milk and honey. For the land where you go in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from where you came out, where you sowed your seed and watered it with your foot, as a garden of herbs. But the land where you go to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and drinks water of the rain of the Shamayim, or the heaven. 12, and a land which Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah, that 4 letters, the Most High, the Father, your Elohim, cares for you, takes care of you. For the eyes of Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah or Yahweh or Jehovah, your Elohim, are always upon it, from the beginning of the year unto the end of the year. We call Jerusalem the heart of the earth, and Israel is the heart of, Jerusalem is definitely the heart of Israel. So, and we know his eyes is on that area all the time. That doesn't mean those people that are there now are the people of Elohim. Okay? Verse 13. And it shall come to pass, if you shall listen diligently to my commandments, which I command you this day, to love Yahuwah your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. See, that great commandment comes up over and over again. And you can see why they call it the law of Moses, or Moshe. He says, and it shall come to pass, if you shall listen diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day. Moses does, because he's the mediator of the first covenant, to love Yahuwah your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give you rain of your land in his due season, the first rain and the latter rain, that you may gather in your corn. He's telling you what Yahuwah has promised, or your grain and your wine and your oil. And I will send grass in your fields for the cattle, that you may eat and be full. Okay? And obviously he's quoting what Yahuwah said. Verse 16. Take heed to yourselves, that your heart be not deceived, and you turn aside and serve other Elohim. That's what the word God should have been translated. That's what God's is not a bad translation, but they're not honest with it, because they only do it when they want to, and worship them. And then Yahuwah, or Yahweh, anger be kindled against you, if you don't do what he says. And he shut up the rain, shut up the heavens of the Shamayim, that there be no rain, and that the land yield not her fruit, and lest you perish quickly from off the good land which Yahuwah, or Yahuwah, Yahweh, Jehovah, Yahweh, Jehovah, whichever translation you believe is correct, gives you. The point is, we need to heed these words. Therefore shall you lay up these my words, little my words. That's why they end up calling this the law of Moshe, in your heart and in your soul, that's in you, in your individual, in your body, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be as the frontlets between your eyes. So, just like your eyelids. And you shall teach them to your ben, your sons, speaking of them when you sittest in your house, and when you walkest by the way, when you liest down, and when you raise up. And you shall write them upon the doorpost of your house and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your ben, your sons, in the land which Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah swear unto your fathers, or promised unto your fathers, to give them, as the days of the Shamayim upon the earth. For if you shall diligently keep all these commandments, which I command you to do them, number one is to love Yahuwah your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to cling unto him. Then will Yahuwah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Yahweh, whatever the translation you pull to, drive out all these nations from before you, and you shall possess greater nations and mightier than yourselves. 24. Every place wherein the soles of your feet, the bottoms of your feet shall tread, shall be yours. From the wilderness of Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the uttermost sea, or the Mediterranean, shall your coast be. And believe me, it never got to that, because they never did all this. There shall no man be able to stand before you. And it's the way it would be now if they were fearing him and keeping his commandments. And those people there are not the descendants, but they could be spiritual if they're truly converted. But obviously Yahuwah is not blessing them as he did then, before you. For Yahuwah your Elohim shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that you shall tread upon, as he has said unto you. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. See, See, oh, I don't want to keep that dirty old law because it's a curse. Yeah, it's a curse according to this. But it's also a blessing according to this. Here it is, a blessing if you obey the commandments of Yahuwah your Elohim, which I command you this day. And a curse if you will not obey the commandments of Yahuwah your Elohim. So who's cursed? Those that are keeping the law, or those that are rejecting the law and saying it was nailed to the cross? Our Messiah never said that. The ordinances of animal sacrifice, I believe, Brother Apostle Paul, or Shaul in Hebrew, I believe he upholds that to be the truth. He says the ordinances, even a change in the ordinances, even the word that they translate law is not the same Greek word that is equivalent to the word Torah. Doesn't mean the same thing, but they know that's what he's referring to. Look in your Strong's Concordance. It is equivalent to the word Torah. But turn aside out of the way which I command you this day to go after other Elohim, gods, which you have not known. And it shall come to pass when Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, have been brought you in unto the land where you go to possess it, that you shall put the blessing upon Mount Gerizim, and the curse upon Ebal, upon Mount Ebal. And they not, and verse 30, or is added, they not on the other side of Jordan, by the way where the sun goes down, or to the west, in the land of the Canaanites which dwell in the desert plain over against Gilgal, beside the plains of Moreh. Verse 30, for you shall pass over Jordan to go into possess the land which Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, gives you. And you shall possess it, and dwell therein. And you shall observe to do all the statutes, the decrees, and the laws, or the judgments, which I set before you this day. Not some of them, all of them. Chapter 12. These are the statutes or decrees and the laws or judgments which you shall observe to do in the land which Yahuwah your Elohim, or Yahweh your Elohim, of your fathers gives you to possess it all the days that you live upon the earth. You shall utterly, this is the beginning of the decrees, you shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations, or the Gentiles, which you shall possess, serve their Elohim, gods, upon the high mountains, and upon the hills, and under every green tree. Well, I think they mostly did that, but Solomon came back and rebuilt them for his concubines. And today, we have that same thing in what they call the church today. You know, they got some of them built in the places where on high mountains and upon the hills and under the green trees. And you shall overthrow their altars. Notice they call the front of their altars as well. And break their pillars and burn their groves with fire. And you shall cut down the graven images of their Elohim, and destroy the names of them out of that place. This is where the challenge comes about the names. 4. You shall not do so unto Yahuwah your Elohim, but unto the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose out of all the tribes to put his name there, even unto his habitation shall you seek the other. There you shall come, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices. He's talking about Jerusalem, where that's where the place he chose to put his name there. And your tithes and your heave offerings of your hand, and your vows and your free will offerings, and the firstlings of your herds and of your flocks. That's where you were supposed to bring your sacrifice, there and there only. And you had to come every day. And there you shall eat before Yahuwah your Elohim, and you shall rejoice in all that you put your hand unto, you and your household or your family, wherein Yahuwah your Elohim hath blessed you with your family. 8. You shall not do after all the things that we do here this day, every man whatsoever is right in his own eyes, and that's what they were doing. We can't do that once we come to Messiah. We have to put on the anointed one, Christ, Jesus, or Yahushua, or Yeshua. We have to become like him. And in order to do that, we have to keep all his commandments, all of them, just like here. For except the ordinances, animal sacrifice, obviously. Okay, and he changed the Passover ordinance to bread and wine instead of what you read in Exodus. For you are not as yet come to the rest and to the inheritance. For you, Israel, are not as yet come to the rest. Okay, the resting place. The resting place is in the promised land where they're getting ready to go. Okay, and that's a shadow of these different times when they had peace and everything was going on, of the millennial reign of our Mashiach, our Messiah, Yahushua, or Yeshua, or Jesus, when he comes back and reigns on earth for 1,000 years. That's when a lot of this stuff is going to become to the final conclusion. Not all of it, a lot of it. Some of it's about the end of days. And to inherit, and to the inheritance of the land. They're going to inherit that land in the millennial reign. The original tribes. And the nations that are grafted in will come in under whatever tribe they are with. For you are not as yet come to the rest, and unto the inheritance, which Yahuwah your Elohim gives you. 10. But when you go over Jordan, and dwell in the land which Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah your Elohim gives unto you to inherit, and when he gives you you rest, and he did this after they came across the wilderness and they went in, but this is all pointing, and the final conclusion of this is the rest of the there'll be 6,000 years rules of man, and then 1,000 years under Mashiach. This is the rest they're talking about. That's what the seventh-day Sabbath is pointing to. That's what all the feast days most of the feast days are pointing to, and some are pointing to the end of days. So that you dwell in safety. 11. Then there shall be a place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Let's talk about Jerusalem that's within Israel. Shall you bring all that I commanded you, your burnt offerings, he'll do that in the millennium too, and your sacrifices, your tithes, and your heave offering of your land, that all your special pledges which you pledge unto Yahuwah. Let's talk about those special sacrifices. Verse 12. And you shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim. That's going to be during the feasts. You and your men, or sons, and your daughters, and your men servants, and your maid servants, and the Levite that is within your gates, for as much as he hath no part nor inheritance with you. That's why he's within your gates. See, the 12 tribes of Israel, which we had Ephraim and Manasseh to make those 12 tribes because of them being adopted, okay? And Levi was separate from that, okay? Because they were the sons of Elohim at that time, just as the firstborn were up until that time. Take heed to yourselves that you offer not your burnt offerings in every place that you see. They weren't supposed to do that, only in Jerusalem. But in the place which Yahuwah shall choose in one of the tribes, there you shall offer your burnt offerings, and you shall do all that I command you. Notwithstanding, you may kill and eat flesh in all your gates, whatsoever your soul lusteth after, according to the blessing of Yahuwah your Elohim, which he giveth you. The unclean and the clean may you eat. Therefore, as the roebuck, or also as the roebuck, okay, which is like the gazelle, and as the hart, which is as the stag, okay, or deer. So that's exactly how it stands today. Most people don't, that are in what we would call the Sunday congregations wouldn't agree with us, but listen to what it said. He said, whatever your soul lusteth after. I mean, whatever it is that you desire according to the blessing of Yahuwah your Elohim, which he giveth you, the unclean and the clean may you eat thereof, as of the roebuck and as of the hart. And people will say, well, what about over there in Timothy? When it says whatever you prayed over, no, same. Okay? Because that says whatever is sanctified by the word of God. That's what this says. Okay? So where's it sanctified, the clean and the unclean, from Elohim to us? Leviticus chapter 11. There's no way to get out of this. Why would you want to? Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah made you. Made Adam, made the Messiah. A lot of people say, oh, don't say that. But he did. Okay? And he made you this body, and he knows what you should eat and what you shouldn't eat. Everything that's unclean, he did not create for food. He didn't make it compatible for us to eat for our overall well-being. I mean, you can eat anything you want to eat. You can eat rats, you can eat snakes, you can eat whatever. But it's not sanctified by the word of Elohim. And that's exactly what this says here. Remember, our Messiah, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, says, not one jot or one tittle shall pass from the Torah until all be fulfilled, till heaven and earth pass away. Has that happened? No. You need to understand Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 15, to understand Timothy. Okay? Go read the vision in Acts. You're going to know that was talking about the Gentile that was clean. It says it 3 different times in context. It's not talking about that sheet coming down saying you could eat snakes and rats, and monkeys, and whatever else you want to eat. It's not saying that at all. Even though we know that in Matthew he said it's not what comes out of a man, but not what goes into a man, but comes out that defiles him. That's talking about washing your hands in the first place in context. That's not talking about clean and unclean. And it is true it's what comes out of here that corrupts you. But what you put into your body, you put in garbage, you're going to get out garbage. You want good health, you put in the things that he created for food. Verse 16. Only you shall not eat the blood. You shall pour it upon the earth as water. And some people carry that too far too, but you're not to eat the blood. Some of the pagan tribes or heathen tribes, whatever you want to call them, that pagan means country folk. You go check that out, okay? Heathen is just a word they like to apply to the word that's translated from Hebrew for Gentiles, or in Greek from Gentiles. They like to call them heathens, so they can be proud and lift themselves up. But some of those groups that did not know our Elohim would literally take that water and drink it and think it gave them strength because they knew the life was in the blood. They thought it gave them life. Chapter 13. Thou mayest not eat within your gates the tithes of your grain. Now, you can eat all your grain except that 10th part that was supposed to go to Yahuwah. Or of your wine, or of your oil, or of the firstlings of your herds, or of your flock. You can't eat them in your own gates. You've got to take them to Jerusalem. Nor any of your vows which you vow, or any of your promised offerings, free will offerings that you promise, nor your free will offerings or heave offerings of your hands. So any of your special offerings, any of your free will offerings, or your heave offering, you can't eat those at home. You can't eat your tithes. You have to take them to Jerusalem at that time. Still need to give them to Yahuwah in some way, fashion, whether that's just take it out and give it to the poor or whatever you do. You still need a 10th part is his. That hasn't changed either. But you must eat them before Yahuwah your Elohim in the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose, you and your sons and your daughters and your manservant and your maidservant and the Levite that is within your gates. And you shall rejoice before Yahuwah your Elohim in all that you puttest your hands into. In other words, all your work, everything that you do, you're going to give some to him, and you're going to do it in a place where he's going to put his name there. We're going to do that again in the millennium. Those that are still physically and flesh and blood are going to do that. Okay? Verse 20. When Yahuwah your Elohim, verse 19, take heed to yourself that you forsake not the Levite, the teachers, as long as you liveth upon the earth. Verse 20. Now we know you don't know who the Levite is now, but the work still has to be done. When Yahuwah your Elohim shall enlarge your borders, give them the full inheritance, which is not going to happen now till the millennium, because they were stiff-necked and they didn't do what he said, as he hath promised you. And thou shalt say, I will eat flesh, because my body longs to eat flesh, and you may eat flesh, whatsoever your body desires after. If the place which Yahuwah your Elohim hath chosen to put his name there be too far from you, okay, then you shall kill of your herd and of your flock which Yahuwah hath given you, as I have commanded you, and you shall eat in your gates whatsoever your soul lust after, even as the roebuck and the hart is eaten, so you shall eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them alike. Now, some people say, wait a minute, and the unclean and the clean. Think. It's saying the person that's either clean or unclean. Remember, if you touch a body or any of those things, you're unclean. You can't go in the temple if you're unclean. But if you're unclean, you can eat them, eat all these sacrifices if you yourself are unclean. Even as you do the roebuck and the hart is eaten, so you shall eat them. The unclean and the clean shall eat of them. Not that you shall eat the unclean, but the clean and the unclean shall eat of them alike. Plain and simple, cut and dry. 23. Only be sure that you eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and you may not eat of the life with the flesh. It means drain the blood, pour it on the ground. You shall not eat it. You shall not pour it upon the earth. You shall not eat it. You shall pour it upon the earth as water. You shall not eat it, the blood, that it may go well with you, and with your being after you, when you shall do that which is right in the sight of Yahuwah, Yahweh, or Jehovah. Only you set apart things which you hast, and you promise you shall take and go unto the place which Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah shall choose, which is Jerusalem. 27. And you shall offer your burnt offerings and your flesh and the blood upon the altar of Yahuwah your Elohim, and the blood of your sacrifices shall be poured upon the altar of Yahuwah and your Elohim, and you shall eat the flesh. Observe and hear all these words which I command you, that it may go well with you and with your being after you forever, when you do that which is good and right in the sight of Yahuwah your Elohim. When Yahuwah your Elohim shall cut off the nations from before you, where you go to possess them, and you succeed them and dwell in their land, take heed to yourself that you be not trapped by following them, after that they be destroyed from before you, and that you inquire or not ask, and you ask not after their Elohims, saying, how did these nations or Gentiles serve their Elohim? Even so will I do likewise. You shall not do so unto Yahuwah your Elohim, for every abomination to Yahuwah, and he hates it. He hates what they have done unto their Elohim. For even their men or sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their Elohims. To their Elohim. This, that they passed their children through the fire to Molech. Okay? Verse 32. What thing soever I command you, observe to do it, and you shall not add thereunto, nor take away from it, diminish therefrom it. See, that's why every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah, and Moshe was delivering it to them as he got it from the Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit. Chapter 13. You couldn't add to it, you couldn't take away. And it repeats that again in Revelation, not just talk about these two books, talk about every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. Chapter 13. If there arise among you a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, and giveth you a sign or a wonder, or gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or the wonder come to pass, whereof he spake, or the thing that he spake unto you, saying, let us go after other Elohim, which you have not known, and let us serve them. If this guy predicts the future, it happens. Then he says, let us go after other Elohim, which you have not known, and let us serve them. You shall not listen unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams. For Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, tests you to know whether you love Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your soul. Being. 4. You shall walk after Yahuwah your Elohim, and fear him. What? And keep his commandments, and obey his voice, the Ruach HaKodesh. And you, the Holy Spirit, you shall serve him, the Father, and cleave unto him. And that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams, shall be what? Put to death. We can't do that now, but we don't follow them, and in the millennium, he'll be put to death. Because he has spoken to turn you away from Yahuwah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed you out of the house of bondage, to thrust you out of the way which Yahuwah your Elohim, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, commanded you to walk in. So shall you put evil away from the midst of you. You can do that today without putting anybody to death. Put them away from you. Separate yourself from them. With such you shouldn't even eat. Okay? Very clear and straightforward. I want to make sure positive people don't. I'm not saying we're ever going to start the millennium on our own. Not at all. We're not going to fight. We're not called to political causes. We're not called for them, and we're not called against them. We're to live in this world and not be part of the world. And when we take political positions, we're part of the world. We're supposed to love the stranger as well as the homeborn. Okay? And people that go after other gods, that's their choice. We aren't supposed to live with them or eat with them, but we're not supposed to condemn them for believing differently than you believe. Okay? The Father will take care of that in due time. And when the Messiah returns, when the true Messiah, there's not going to be any mistake. A lot of people are saying, oh, the Messiah, that's baloney. When the Mashiach comes, it's going to be like the lightning coming from the east. You're going to know it. The powers that be are going to crumble. And we're going to take down all the high places, just like it says here. But not until the Messiah returns. And when he returns, he's not going to be the lamb, he's going to be the lion, but he's going to be a Elohim. An Elohim, he's going to be a spirit. And when that happens, everything's going to take care of itself. Do not try to take the law into your own hands, and do not try to force these things to come. They're not going to come until the Father knows, till the Tetragrammaton says it. Okay? Until then, we love the stranger. We love all people. And we act in such a manner. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son, or your daughter, or your wife of your bosom, or your friend, which is as your own body, someone that you love just like yourself, entice you secretly, saying, let us go and serve other Elohim, which you has not known, you nor your fathers, namely the Elohim of the people which are round about you. We got them round about us too. Near unto you, or far from you, far from the end of the earth, even unto the other end of the earth. Could be on the other side of the world, it don't matter. You shall not consent unto him, nor listen unto him. Neither shall your eye pity him. Who? Not the one that's doing that, the other people that's following other gods, but this one that says your father, your mother, your brother, your daughter, your wife, all these people that you dearly love, that's who he's talking about, come to you and try to get your consent for you to follow other gods. That's the one you don't pity. You shall not consent unto him, yield unto that person, nor listen unto them, neither shall your eye pity them. These ones that are supposed to be Israel, that are trying to get you to turn on your God, neither shall you spare, neither shall you conceal him. You shall not hide it, the truth. But you shall surely kill him. Now, do you kill him today? No. But you don't have no part with it. You cut him off from before you. We're not living in the land now. Your hand shall be first upon him to put him to death. That's in the kingdom. And afterwards the land of all the people, the hand of all the people of Israel. And you can't do that until we're all in the promised land. And maybe the promised land will be the whole earth. And you shall stone him with stones that he die, because he hath sought to thrust you away from your Elohim, from Yahuwah or Yahweh, Jehovah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage. And all Israel shall hear and fear. So you're setting an example, and shall do no more any such wickedness as this is among you. Now, when they lived in the land back then, that was an example for everybody. When you're in the kingdom, that'll be that way because there's still sin in the millennial reign. There wouldn't be sacrifices for sin offerings be done in the temple if there wasn't going to be any sin. And it even says, if the people of Egypt and different countries don't come down to keep the feast, Zechariah, Feast of Tabernacles, there'll be no rain. So obviously there's still sin even in the millennial reign. If you, verse 12, if you shall hear, say in one of your cities, which Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah have given you to dwell therein, they're saying, certain men, the men of Belial, that means the sons of Satan, are gone, or worthless ones. It's talking about Satan. Go out from among you and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, got them to go along with them, just like the fallen angels did. Satan did with the fallen angels, saying, let us go and serve other Elohim, which you have not known. The same thing Ha-Satan, Lucifer, did. Verse 14, then shall you inquire and make search and ask diligently, and behold, if it be true, and the thing is certain, that such abomination is wrought among you, got away from you. Thou shalt surely smite or strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword. It's talking about in the millennium or in the kingdom, destroying it utterly, and all that is therein, and the cattle thereof with the edge of the sword. That's talking about those that lived in Israel at that time and the ones that lived there during the millennium, because there will be no sin in the new heaven and new earth. And you shall gather all the spoil of it into the midst of the street thereof, and you shall burn it with fire, that city, and all the spoil thereof, every bit for Yahuwah or Yahweh or Jehovah your Elohim, and it shall be an heap forever. it shall not be built again. And there shall cling nothing of the curse. You shall not leave nothing of the curse left in your hand, that Yahweh or Yahuwah or Jehovah may turn from the fierceness of his anger and show you mercy and have compassion upon you and multiply you as he has sworn unto your fathers. When you shall listen to the voice of Yahuwah your Elohim, if you keep all his commandments, which I command you this day, to do that which is right in the eyes of Yahuwah your Elohim. We're going to stop right there. This will be part 4. May Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, Jehovah, Jehovah, or the Tetragrammaton, that's what we're talking about, the Father, those 4 letters, add his blessing to the reading of the Word.